John Mayer, Eric Clapton. Now those guys know how to improvise a great solo. But what's their secret though? What makes up a great solo? What are the things that you should and should not do? Well, we're gonna cover that today. Here are 6 tips to help you along. So number 1, start simple. A common mistake beginners make is to go all out from the first moment, right from the start. Now you obviously don't want to start your solo like that. You want to build up towards a climax rather than to start with one. When you start your solo, you want to have something left. You don't want to give everything away right from the first note. Take a look at how B.B. King starts his solo. That's so much better than to start your solo like this. What a difference, right? It works because he starts very simple and very laid back. And then you can push on through. Now that doesn't mean you always have to start very laid back. Take someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan, for instance. He would often start his solo like this. You know, it's impossible to play Stevie Ray Vaughan and to still have a straight face. You have to make faces if you're gonna play a note like this. You just have to make a face. It's impossible to do without. Anyway, that wasn't a laid-back beginning at all. The intensity level was through the roof. However, he still has something left for the real climax. That's Stevie Ray Vaughan. Even though he starts like 100%, he still has something left. You don't want to start with everything at the beginning. That's the point. Start simple. Phrasing. Now what on earth is phrasing, you might wonder? Well, the best way to explain it is to simply show you. So let's have another listen at that B.B. King style of playing. It sounds pretty good, right? But why does it sound good though? Well, notice the solo starts with a melody. Then there's a huge pause, where you can breathe, and he continues. And now you're telling a story. The reason it works is the silence between the 2 melodies, creating 2 phrases. So that pause is very important. After all, you're telling a story. Try telling a story with a continuous stream of words, without any break.
It is true that the intellectual efficiency of high-order beings does diminish proportionately with the deprivation of nutritious fuel.
Nobody talks like that, right? Well, likewise, you shouldn't play guitar like that as well. But you'd be surprised how many people play like this.
There are simply too many notes. That's all. Just cut a few and it'll be perfect.
That's like white noise. Very exhausting to listen to. And that does sound so much better, does it? So instead of just playing and seeing where you will end up, think of your solo as a series of phrases. And don't be afraid to use silence. You don't want to fill every moment with a note. There need to be some of those breathing spaces as well. Number 3, dynamics. What to say about dynamics, except for that it's one of the most important things you really want to incorporate into your guitar playing. You can distinguish a great player from an average player just by use of dynamics alone. In music, dynamics simply means the variation of loudness between the notes and phrases. So you want to be able to play very soft as well as very loud. And make sure that you avoid playing notes which have the same loudness for long periods of time. Like a phrase should have a curve. You can start soft, a peak in the middle, and end soft, something like this. So notice I start very soft and end very soft. And that's a technique you can practice on all kinds of phrases. So whatever you do, don't play with the same loudness like this. Not bad, not real good either. Kind of bleh. It's because I played all the notes just as loud. Now instead of doing this, do this. Hear the difference? It's again the curve. Now it doesn't always have to be the curve. You can start loud and end soft. Or the other way around. Just make sure you don't play every note at exactly the same level. Let's listen one more time to that B.B. King solo and listen to his dynamics. So he plays notes like this, very sweet. Two very sweet notes. And then next thing we have, which is, whoa, as loud as you can play it, really. That's what you want to do. You want to mix things up. Avoid playing everything the same. Vibrato. What is vibrato? Well, you can sing a note like this, la, or like this, la. Hear the difference? That's it, basically. Right, let's pretend that didn't happen. Anyway, vibrato is kind of like your trademark. If you're gonna play without this technique, it's gonna sound like this. Now that wasn't too good, was it? It was pretty boring. Well, let's hear how it sounds with vibrato. What a difference, isn't it? Now, if you're new to this technique, you want to practice it, start by pressing down your index finger at the 10th fret, and then slightly press the string so it bends up a little bit, and move back. Then speed up the tempo, and there you go. Now, it's actually kind of hard to do. I remember I was a kid. It took me like 3 months or so to get somewhat of a decent vibrato. Now, if you know how to do a vibrato, make sure you don't do this. Now here I was using vibrato, but it was still pretty boring and dull. Why? Because I was doing it the same way every time. Let's compare that to... You see the difference? You can play it fast, or you can play it very slow and gentle. Now vibrato tends to be on the longer notes, but also you don't want to do it all the time. Sometimes you just don't. Remember, the goal is to mix things up. You want to be unpredictable. That's what's gonna make it interesting. Number 5, repetition. Very effective, and every great guitarist does it. You start by making up a phrase and simply repeat it. So there's room for a bit of improvisation and an extra note here and there, as long as you still recognize it's the first phrase you're repeating. Now keep in mind though, you don't want to start your phrase too difficult or complex, otherwise it's going to be way too hard to be able to repeat it. Again, I was using the silence, the breathing space, remember? But you don't have to do that necessarily. You can also just play a phrase continuously, without any gap whatsoever. could have gone on for much longer than that. You can go on for minutes if you want to. And if you do so, you build up the tension for the listener until finally you play something else and it's like a great release. It's a great tool. Don't forget to use it. I think it was Eric Clapton who once mentioned in an interview that one of the things you want to be doing when you're playing a solo is make sure to every now and then play 2 notes together, not just 1 note at a time all the time. Now that might sound like, wow, really? Well, bear with me. You'd be surprised how many people play like this. You never hear more than 1 note at a time. What you want to do though is this. Something as simple as your index finger on the 1st and 2nd string. Makes your playing that much more interesting. Or how about this little trick that Eric Clapton likes to do pretty often? On the 8th and 9th fret. And something like this, 7 and 8. There are more places like that on the fretboard. You just have to experiment a little bit and listen to great players and take their tricks and turn them into your own. Just make sure not to play 1 note at a time, all the time, if that makes sense. Also, a great tip is to simply record yourself. You can just use your phone, it doesn't have to be great quality, and just make a list. Right, how are my dynamics? Was I playing a few soft notes, loud notes? How was my phrasing? Did I use silence? Did I use repetition? Did I really build things up? Did I just play 1 note all the time? Or did I play a few extra things in there? Trust me, that's where you're gonna learn the most. Okay guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe. And I will definitely see you next time.